Welcome back to From the Game to Grace. I am your co-host, Candice Hayes.
I'm Jarius Hayes.
And we are going to we're going to flip the script a little bit today, y'all. We're going to talk about Jarius and some of his accomplishments. And really, we're going to be talking about this book here, A Message to the Man. So we're going to talk about this book, and we're going to start off just like Jarius, I know, and some of the people out there in the audience know that you spent years in the NFL, right? In the spotlight. So what's one thing nobody tells you about the life when the game ends? Can you kind of elaborate on that?
Well, I don't know if nobody tells you this, but when you finish playing, you go through like an identity transition. You transition from being that NFL football player to just, whatever arena or whatever area you tend to go into afterwards. And that's with anything. Like, let's say you're a school teacher. Let's say you're an entertainer. Let's say you're a business owner. And you do something for so long, and your identity is, okay, that's the school teacher, that's the business owner, that's the entertainer. And once you end, it's like your identity, you're no longer identified as what you used to be. And so it can kind of be tough because you'll see people that say, hey man, what's going on? You're not playing no more. You're like, nah.
Kind of an awkward feeling.
I ain't playing no more. And it's like, ooh. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So.
And that's what they knew you by.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of like, ooh. And so, but it's good because everything going to come to an end eventually.
Right. That's right.
It's just how quick do you transition? Because like transition can be comfortable or it could be seamless to where I finished playing, I'm no longer playing, but now I'm doing this. Some guys have it where when they finish playing, they go right into, they already had some setup where they just walk right into it and there's no issue. But a lot of guys don't have that and they spend years wondering. And some guys never find their identity after the sport. So, and so you get into an identity transition when the last whistle blows on your career.
Wow. Okay. All right. So, can you elaborate a little bit more about that, like the shift that took place, after, that last whistle blew and after the fact that you said, okay, this is it. And how did you feel?
To be honest with you, it didn't feel good because I felt like a failure. And because I didn't feel like I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. Even though I got injured and things happened, I couldn't really get back into the league. When my career ended, I felt like a failure because I didn't get to accomplish what I wanted to. But I also, and I said this in an earlier podcast, don't focus on what you didn't accomplish. Be thankful for what you did accomplish.
That's right.
And just know that, you may have accomplished more than maybe the average person did. And also you did something that everybody don't get to do. So you got to look at that perspective and get the joy out of the small things and not allow how you feel with your career ending. Don't allow that to, diminish what you accomplished. Even though it may have not been what you wanted to accomplish, but you can't let, that diminish your accomplishments.
That's really good. That's really good. Yeah, and I just want to say you are a champion. You'll always be a champion.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay, so let's kind of talk about A Message to the Man, the book that you wrote a few years ago. And I just felt like it was a really good time to kind of, just kind of give this a reboot of talking about, about your book. I mean, because this is timeless. It's so many good, chapters and pieces in there,
Right.
that can help, so many people.
Right.
So, did you ever think that you would be writing that you would write a book?
Not really, because it's funny because God has gifted us a lot of times to do things that we didn't know we could do.
Absolutely.
I had no idea that I could write a book. I had no idea I could do that. But I was able to do it, and I was so focused on just trying to finish it, because it's not an easy thing to do. It can be done, but it's not an easy thing to do. So I was just, I just want to finish. I just want to finish. And once I finished it, it's just like, whew, I'm done. You know what I'm saying? So, but you have been gifted by God to do things. In a lot of cases, we don't know we can do certain things until the opportunity arises. And so, and I didn't really realize that I could write the book until I started writing the book.
Right.
Because you don't know if you can or can't do something
until you do it.
Until you put forth an effort to try to do it.
That's it. Yeah.
And so until I put forth the effort to write the book, I was like, oh, I can do this. But I had no idea before I started writing that I could do it. So it's kind of like, just taking that step. If I fail, I fail.
Right.
But at least I tried.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Right.
That was my mindset. And I think that's what's been my mindset throughout my life. Like, I haven't been afraid to step out and try something. Whether it was in football or whatever it was, I don't want to live this life and not at least step out and attempt to do something that I may or may not be successful at, but I'm gonna at least give it a shot.
That's it.
So, yeah.
So when did you realize you needed to write this book, A Message to the Man? When did you say, at what moment you said, men need to hear this book?
Well, it was actually in the midst of writing the book where I was like, man, this is good. Even though it sounds kind of funny, but even though I was the one writing the book, I was like, man, as I was writing, I was like, man, this is gonna be good. And that's kind of funny, but that's how I felt, because a lot of what I was getting, I said, man, this is the stuff we don't talk about as men a lot of time.
And what are some of those things?
Started out talking about purpose, talking about vision, talking about environment, talking about restoration. You know what I'm saying? Things of that nature where it's really encouraging and uplifting to the man.
Right.
And so I said, man, I think this is going to be good. So
I know you talked about, the importance of environment. So as a former NFL player, you're in the locker rooms, the board rooms from the stadium, and then here comes, after all that's over with, you just live in an everyday life. So how did you learn to create an environment that protects your peace, but also pushes you forward?
That's a good question, because you gotta think about it. Once you set a goal and once you have a path that you want to get on, you choose your environments wisely.
Okay.
Because my goal was to make it to the NFL. And so any environment, any place that wasn't conducive for me getting there, or wasn't I thought was safe, or wasn't productive, or wasn't peaceful, or wasn't encouraging, or wasn't uplifting, I didn't want to be a part of that environment, regardless of even if it were people close to me that was in the environment. And that's the trick. The trick is, a lot of times we want to be in environments around people and our friends, even though that environment may not be good for us. And so you got to make a decision. Okay, is this environment good for me? Is in the environment, is what I'm seeing, hearing, and experiencing good for my future? That's the questions you got to ask. What I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, what I'm participating in, is it sowing seeds for my future that's going to be a positive harvest? Or will it be a negative harvest? Because everything is like a seed that's being planted.
Right.
What you hear, what you see, what you say, what you experience. And will this be good for where I'm headed? And everybody should ask that question. Who are you around? What environment are you in? Is it good for where I'm headed? But the main thing is you got to know where you're headed.
Right. That's true.
Because most people don't know where they're headed. And they are fall prey to any and everything that comes their way. But if you know where you're headed, you be like, I can't do that. I can't do that. And it's really, to be honest with you, it's really an easy decision to make not to be part of certain environments if you know where you're going and if you know where you're headed. But if you don't, you just fall for anything.
Wow. Okay. So what does a man need to remove or add to his environment when he's rebuilding his identity?
What does he need to what?
What does he need? What does a man need to remove or add to his environment when he's rebuilding his identity? Just say, for instance, you said that it was an identity adjustment when that last whistle blew. When your career was over. So rebuilding that identity. What does a man need to do to remove, or what does he need to add? Just know you were. Just know you wasn't just put on this earth just to do one thing. Now, at the time, you may not know what direction that you need to go in, but just know you wasn't just put on this earth just to do one thing. And so when one thing ends, it opens the door for something else to begin. Okay.
And so, but in order to discover what that new path is, for me, prayer was the key.
Okay.
Okay, God, I'm done with football. What direction do you want me to go in? What path do you want me to go down? Who am I outside of being a football player? Those are the questions that you got to ask. You know what I'm saying? So you won't be just grasping for air, so to speak, or wondering, okay, I'm going to try this for a minute. I'm going to try that for a minute. Next thing you know, it's 10 years later.
You're still trying to
You're still trying stuff. But if you can, for me, prayer, seeking God, okay, God, what direction now do you want me to go in from this point forward?
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Because you see a lot of people, a lot of men that, sometimes they don't know, like, what's the next step, where they're going.
Right.
It's just kind of like a repeated cycle.
Right.
Like, yeah. So let's talk about self-control. I know that was one of the topics in your book.
Right.
So let's talk about that self-control piece. And this, this can go, anywhere with this self-control piece. So in the NFL, you were taught discipline, self-control, is everything. From your training to your diet to even the, preparing for the game. But self-control in everyday life hits different. What's the hardest area where you had to exercise self-control outside of football?
I can't pinpoint the hardest area, but I will say this, that, for years you operated in a level of discipline to play the game.
Right.
And then, a lot of times, once you finish the game, you don't have that same type of discipline. Mm-hmm. And so it's important that the discipline that you display while playing the game needs to be done even when you finish the game.
Right.
Whatever path that you go down, you need to display that same discipline. And of course, you ate right. You work out. You did those things. And I'm gonna be honest. Like, when I finished playing, I tried to keep working out for a little while, but it didn't work out. I mean, it was years where I just shut down lifting weights. I mean, I didn't work out. I didn't do nothing, like, for years. And but then I got back into it, and I look back at it and I said I should have never stopped, because even though while I was playing football, I was training for football. Even when you're finished with football, you still have to stay in shape for life.
Right. That's good.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You still have to stay in shape for life. Whether whatever profession that you choose, it's still good to stay in shape, stay healthy, eat right, be disciplined in that area. And so the same discipline that, I displayed playing football, need to be transferred over to, your next path. The same discipline that you display in whatever area that you were once in, when you choose that new area, just display it in that arena. So don't drop the discipline. Don't drop the self-control. Just transfer it to
something else.
Something else. Yeah.
And I know, that football is it's a violent sport anyway.
Right.
So you can't, even, while you're on the field, it's violent.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
and so it's like, you got to think on the field, when that quarterback says height, you got to be violent for about 6 to 7 seconds at the highest level. But when you finish playing the game, you can't do that. You can't be physically violent.
Right. Consequences.
Yeah.
Surely.
And so you have to have that self-control off the field. On the field, it had to be what they call control rage, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? I could be violent for those few seconds, but it also had to be under control as well. Off the field, you can't display that. When things don't go your way, you can't get violent.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to be able to have that self-control off the field. And in a lot of cases, that a lot of players struggle with that because physically they think they can solve everything physically, and they get hurt or they hurt somebody else, and they go to prison go to prison then, or
drinking,
altercations and things of that nature. So, but once the game over,
it's over.
You have to experience self-control off the field as well. So, yeah.
So I know also in this book you emphasize that fathers are needed. It's necessary. It's not an option. So as a father yourself and having been a father figure in our blended family, what do you wish more men understood about the weight and the responsibility of fatherhood?
Just know, as fathers, you need it. Fathers are needed. Fathers prevent a lot of foolishness from taking place.
Let's talk about that.
When daddy around, a lot of stuff don't go down that would if he wasn't around.
Yeah, you're right.
You know what I'm saying? Just his presence. He don't even have to be doing nothing.
Yeah.
He can just be sitting on the couch watching TV.
Yeah.
But it's certain things that ain't gonna happen in that house if daddy at home.
That's right. Yeah.
Your friends come over. It's certain things you ain't gonna do if he at home. If you out somewhere and like as kids, if you out somewhere, but dad with you, you ain't gotta worry about nothing.
Yeah, you ain't gonna have no food neither.
You know what I'm saying? So just having that masculine presence
Yeah.
is so needed for our young men and our young women.
Yes, it is.
A father is just as important for a daughter as he is a son. Both are, you need to be, fathers are so necessary for whether it's a boy or a girl. The father is necessary. Having that masculine, presence. It prevents a lot from happening. And that's why I think, that's why they call us protectors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cause you think about it. Let's say you go somewhere. Let's say you go to the mall or something. And when you get to the mall, you see a police car and a cop sitting in his police car in front of the mall. He just sitting there. But you feel kind of safe knowing that policeman is just sitting there.
Right.
He's not doing anything. He's just sitting in his car in front of the mall. Right. That's all he's doing. And so you get out, you're like, oh, okay, well, you feel pretty good because just his presence alone prevents people from doing certain stuff.
Doing something crazy.
That's how a father is. Father could just be sitting there.
Yeah.
But just his presence alone, you feel like, I'm going to be okay. And so, and it's so many other things a father, a father does, but just, and ain't no man perfect, ain't no father perfect. Right. But man, when you are present, you make a big difference. Big difference.
Okay. So if you could leave men with one message today from this book, one thing they need to hear right now in 2026, what would it be?
I say this in the book. It's one thing every man has in common with another man. And that is every man has had to persevere through some challenge in that life that could have possibly destroyed them.
My God.
Every man. It may have been something big. It may have been something small. It may have been some adversity. It may have been some trauma. It may have been a death of a loved one. Every man got something in common with another man. And that is, we've all had to persevere through tough times.
Wow.
We all have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you can talk to a man in Japan. He had to persevere through a tough time. You can talk to a man in Africa. He had to persevere through a tough time. I can talk to a guy in Texas. He had to persevere through a tough time. So every man has that in common with another man. And this book is encouraging to the fact that regardless of what you had to persevere, regardless of what you go through, you know what I'm saying, you can still live a productive, a successful life still.
That's good. That's good. So before we wrap this up, and we always kind of go back to that and even the reason why we named the podcast From the Game to Grace. So tell us about a time you had to extend grace to someone.
A time I had to extend grace to someone?
Yeah. Or share a moment when grace showed up for you when you needed it the most.
Really, that's a tough. I want to say that's a tough question, but you experience grace every day because it's a lot of things we do that when you look back on it, you don't know how you did it. Like I just got through talking about perseverance.
Yeah.
A lot of us persevered through some things, and when you look back and see how you got through those things, you really don't know how you made it through.
Yeah.
And that was God's grace that got you through.
Yeah.
How did I get over that trauma? How did I get over that loss of job? How did I get over that bad relationship? How did I get over that sickness? How did I get over this? How did I get over that? And how did I make it through? It was God's grace because you didn't have the strength, you didn't have the wisdom, you didn't have the know-how to get through it on your own.
That's good.
And so that was grace right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. So you heard it from Jarius Hayes. That's the grace. So if you could just show them the book, or I'll show it to them.
Yeah.
So this is a book right here. You can get this book from Amazon. And it's A Message to the Man. A Message to the Man. And it's there on Amazon. You can order it. You can order however many you want, but you can get this book from Amazon, A Message to the Man, and it's Jarius Hayes. And when the show ends, we'll have this in the clip, and then we'll have it going across the screen and all that good stuff. So we hope that this message has helped someone out there, that just needed this encouragement, and share it with someone. Hit like and subscribe, and just share this with someone. Like they say, each one reach one. So let's get that message out, and for sure it will help someone. So we're done. Until the next time you see us, we are out. And just extend grace to someone in this time of your life. So we're out. Have a great day. Peace.
Thanks for listening to From the Game to Grace with Jarius and Candice Hayes. If today's episode encouraged you, challenged you, or just made you feel a little less alone, do us a favor. Subscribe, share it with someone who needs it, and leave a review to help more people find the show. You can follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Just search at From the Game to Grace. That's From the Game, the number 2, Grace. Remember, no matter what you've lost or where you've been, grace is always the next play. We'll see you next time.
Like a question and answer type thing.